everybody. So I just wanted to share some ideas on planning and however you organize your calendar. And something that it just became clear to me this week. So when I write things down, I tend to have a system, right? And I will take the headings of my calendar and I'll write down the heading and then the sub points for each heading. And then I'm like looking at my week all in one clip and I'm seeing, okay, I need to do this with my website, and I'm doing this with detox, and I'm doing this with my van, and I'm doing this with my exercise, I'm doing this with education. And I can look at it all in 1 week, in one span, and go, okay, this is what I'm working on. And each week I'm, looking at this list and going, okay, I can do this right now. I'm going to knock that out. I can look at this. I can knock this out. And I've been using this method for quite some time. And then from the big grouped ideas, the step down would be for each day, I would put on there like a specific task that I wanted to complete. Like I want to get quotes for my car insurance, and, I want to do something with, my updating one of my resumes, and I want to make sure I have some time for solitude. So I'm writing that down as like, for that day, I want to make sure that I'm highlighting that on that day. And then underneath of that, I have the appointments. And this is in the setup for the planner pad, which I've been using for years. It's just something that works for me. And, I can see the progress. And when I go back in my calendar and I look at like, okay, well, this particular week, I didn't write a lot down, but this week, wow, like I really wrote this down. I checked all these things off. I did clear the kitchen top of the cabinets. I did, clean my entire kitchen and counters and dishes and etc. Like I can look at this I can look back at my calendar and look at all the tasks that were completed, and, whether I check it off or whether I line it out with a different color or what have you. And then the things that are still undone, I can highlight those. I can do those in a different color. I can group them and then carry them over into the next page for the next week. That is something that I still need to complete. And sometimes the act of repetition of rewriting those things that are still incomplete is like a reminder to me, like, okay, I need to make sure that I do that. I thought I did that, but I didn't, because sometimes you're thinking that you've done something because it's been on the frame of your mind, but then you haven't really completed it yet. And I just want to share one particular example. And, in noticing, like, I'm trying to see here, it was probably over a 3-week period that I was like delaying. I don't want to say I was deliberately delaying, but just like, I was working towards this goal, but I was getting frustrated with working on the goal and the obstacles around it. And so I'm just going to share with you what happened, just so you can see about persistence through this. So I received a letter, and, my car insurance was like, I don't know, like $100 a month. And to me, I thought that was reasonable for the type of coverage that I had. I was happy with it. And all of a sudden, I had this, thing where my mirror on my van was, out in its normal position, but it hit a fence. And, while I was driving, it wasn't like I ran into the fence on purpose or anything like that. It was just, the fence was an obstruction. It was an obstruction in the road. And I looked at the mirror and I saw that, all I had to do was pop it out and replace it and order one on Amazon. And I thought, this is an easy fix. And my gut instinct was, I really don't need to report this. Like, this is just a really simple thing. I'll take care of it. I'll handle it. But as I rethought it and it looped in my mind, and, and I took some counsel from other people, they're like, you might want to just, put it out there, let the insurance company know. It might be a benefit to you. Maybe there's something else wrong, etc. So the bottom line is I submit a claim, and and when I'm talking to the guy that's doing the estimate, and I'm being really brutally honest with the guy, and I'm like, look, I'm sure that this is probably $100 fix or less, and I don't know that I'm really gonna want to do a big renovation of a ding on my door. Like, I don't care about a ding on my door. Like, I'm not that anal about something like that. Like, it's a ding on my door, it's no big deal. But it's the idea that that guy's trying to do his job. He's trying to include all the different variables that he needs to include for that estimate. So then, after my deductible is paid, I get a check, and I'm like, wow, like, I didn't expect to get this. This is kind of like a windfall. I'm like, wow, this is great. So I take that money and I put that towards some debt, and, it's like a win-win. So I'm like, okay, great. And I'm getting ready to order the mirror, and I find it for literally $11. It wasn't even $100, it was $11. And I pop the mirror and I fix the mirror, and I'm thinking, okay, this is great. Well, then I get a letter in the mail from my insurance company, and they raised my rate from $100 a month to no crap, like $400 a month. And I was like, what? What is this for? Like, this is crazy. And I couldn't believe it. So I call back and I'm like, is this an error? Is there a mistake? Is there something overlooked? And they're like, no, like that mirror, crack is actually an at-fault accident. It's your fault. And I'm like, that's crazy. That's not an at-fault accident. That's, a construction error. Like, they had something in the road. Like, it was an obstruction. And bottom line, they're like, this is what it is. This is your new rate. And I'm like, well, I'm not happy with that. And so I start the process of seeking another insurance company. And I don't know if you know anything about trying these digital, quotes or estimates, but it's kind of crazy. And you put your data in, and then it's like your phone is like ringing off the hook, and there's all these basic spam messages that are going to you about like so many different insurance companies. And even though you think that you're going to get a good deal, it's like you're putting in your data thinking that by putting in your data into these digital portals or whatever, that you're actually going to get a real quote. And then it's just people calling you and nagging you, and you still don't even get a real quote. And even the information that you put in requesting the quote doesn't even match the quote that they're giving you or the message that they leave you, which is like void of even listening to anything that you said. So I'm like, oh, I hate dealing with people that just, they're not listening, right? And so I'm responding back and I'm saying, can you requote that and send me an email, and can you put that in writing? And and then more voicemails and back and forth and calling these people, and it's kind of, it's just a pain in the butt. It's like, it takes time, it takes energy, and you're just like, I just want it to be over, right? So finally, I'm reviewing all these different quotes, and I'm really realizing that they're not even following my directions. Like, I gave them the limits of what I'm looking for, the actual coverage of what I currently have, and I want it to be the same coverage. I want to compare apples to apples. I don't want to have like a totally different idea. I want to compare exactly what I have, the coverage that I have. So again, calling these companies, talking to different representatives, going back and forth, and eventually, I'm getting quotes, and these are like quotes that are like $550 a month, and I'm just like, this is so insane. Like, it shouldn't be that expensive. I'm not a terrible driver. Like, there's none of that going on here, and yet this is like what I'm being quoted. So I'm like, okay. So I put it on hold, and I basically forget about it. And in my calendar, I'm like turning the page, and because I didn't write down car insurance follow-up, like, I wasn't thinking about it. So a few weeks go by, and then all of a sudden I remember, and I write it down. Car insurance, I have to call these places. So it's like, call, Progressive, Liberty, Allstate, Travelers, Erie, like all these companies. I'm going to call these companies and follow up. And so I'm following up again. And finally, I'm talking to a representative, and I give all the data, and it's like, I start quoting, well, if I, are there any other states that are lower? than the state I'm currently in. And the person tells me, well, yeah, these states are lower if you live in these states for these reasons. And if you live in like Florida, New York, those states are more expensive, and you're paying like $1,000 a month for insurance. And I was just like, wow, I had no idea. And again, when I was living in different states previously, like I still had my Maryland license, even though I was living somewhere else temporarily. So it didn't occur to me that you would have to like re-register in the state and, get a new license in the state and all that, because again, I didn't do that previously. I just kept my Maryland license and was in a different state for that period of time, and I was paying Maryland rates. So anyway, I was inquiring about, some of my other future plans and where I'm expecting to be. And so I'm getting quoted, a different state. And then I'm like, no, the more I think about it, I still want to keep all my information in Maryland. That's what I really want to do. So she requotes it again. And no joke, my insurance went from, being quoted like $400, $550 a month from all these various companies to, no joke, $83 a month. And I was just like, this is even cheaper. It's $20 cheaper than what I was paying before this whole mirror, like a broken mirror. And it's just so weird that if you keep your persistence and you stay in the game and you deal with all these ridiculous phone calls and you keep refining your questions and you keep asking about, comparing apples to apples so that you're getting the same coverage, and then you ask about the discounts available and you're applying what you can apply, and then in the end, I now am covered with $83 a month instead of $100, instead of $400, instead of $550. Like, that is a huge cost savings by just being persistent. And, then I was talking, to my mom about some of this, and, asking her like what company she was with at that moment, and, for her to be on guard and to watch because of what I had just experienced, meaning I really didn't do anything and it just went up like 4 times the price. And the next month or the next week, she got a letter from her insurance company and her insurance had doubled. And again, my mom is like 83 years old. I mean, she barely drives, but here and there, hardly anything. And for her insurance to go up, that is completely insane. She doesn't even drive as much as I do. And that just goes to show you that these insurance companies are really taking advantage of people. And I was like, well, this is what I said and this is what I asked, and if you want me to, and she's like, no, I'll handle it. I'm going to call. And then after she got off the phone, she said that it was a digital problem, is what she was told, that it was an error by accident, and that, her rate was not going up at all. And I was like, this is so crazy. I mean, are these AI problems that it just automatically assumes the worst, and that you go from $100 a month to $550 a month? I mean, how is that even possible? I mean, what do you have to do to have that type of, increase? It really is crazy. So what I'm saying is, by me writing down on a regular basis and reviewing my week, and then carrying over those unfinished tasks to the next week and going, okay, I didn't finish that car insurance, I've got to carry that on to the next week. And then adding that to that next week, that's a task that I need to do. By me missing that and not carrying over that, and then forgetting about it for a week, and then remembering, and then carrying it over again, and then completing the task, like writing on my calendar, like I have to, remember to do about the car registration, and to follow up on the car insurance, and to follow up with the renter's insurance, and all these things, and that I want to make sure that I do it. And by physically ink, on paper, and I write down like this, these are the tasks I need to do. Now, you could tell me, well, and, get with the program, just do everything digitally. I have notes on my phone. I have alarms that go off. I have things that I put on my digital calendar as well. But when you're so overwhelmed and overloaded with so many tasks, and one of these little bleeps goes off, and let's say you went to the bathroom at that exact minute when your phone bleeps, like, do I really see that pop-up window that says call car insurance if I'm in the bathroom? Probably not, you know? And do I really think it's necessary to carry my phone into the bathroom? No. No, I don't. So, there's this, what feels right for you. And a lot of times, like, to me, like, having pen and paper is just simpler. I can look at it, it's visual. I look at the next week and I go, okay, these are things I really need to focus on. So I hope that helps to give you some insight into writing things down, tracking what you're writing, carrying it over from week to week, and being persistent to focus on that one task and get it done, like complete it, like get it done. And then when you do that and you have success with completing a task that you really want to put off, but you finally have achieved it and dealt with it, then there is this sense of peace and serenity that goes along with completing the task. And now I don't have to think about car insurance anymore. Don't have to think about bundling my renter's insurance or any of that. Like, it's all handled. And so, yes, to take time to handle that task, yes. But writing it down, keeping it in, fresh in your mind to see it on your week, like this, I need to handle this, and then just handle it. And then, it's done. And if you can do that with that one uncomfortable or annoying task, like calling about car insurance, what else can you do? Because if you're focusing on reaching your goals and you're really putting your energy behind it, so then I'm going to back up to, I've written out things that I want to do with my van, and, there were certain things I was waiting on. I was, waiting for someone to be available to do the work. And, so I had made all these lists about what I wanted to do, to upgrade, and what kind of things how I wanted to change the layout and those types of things. And I wrote it down, and then I look here and it's like I did a summary on June 1st and, the things that I wanted to change. And then here I am, this week, and the last time I worked on it was on Sunday the 5th and Tuesday the 30th. And, so it's like now there's movement and momentum again in completing these tasks that I wanted to do on my van. So you could say, well, how do you know what your priority task is and that sort of thing? And again, I've always been like kind of chipping away at so many different things at the same time, because I had a pile up of, from after the flood and after losing my dad and my fiance. It's like I've just had a lot of tasks that are just kind of like, you just have a lot to chip away at all at once. And what I've been realizing is that even though I can give you some concrete, experience about what it's like to use my paper calendar and what works for me, and that this is a way that is great and that, I feel confident in doing because it's a system that works for me. I come back to, one focus, one aim. And for me, I put my focus at the start of my day on God. And that means my Bible study time, reading supporting material that's going to enhance my understanding of the word, and whatever is like on top for that day, whatever I'm being, enlightened about or being asked to dig deeper about that topic, then that's my first aim. That God is my first aim. And when I make God my first aim, then it's like all those other things that I need to get done that are on all these various to-do lists that I have within my calendar or on in a separate journal that I'm going through my master to-do list. The point is that when I focus on God and I'm doing it in the right order of focusing on Him first, then it's like all these other tasks and all these other phone calls that I need to make and the things that I want to do to get, to knock out my goals. It's like those things are aligned. Like the phone calls are lined up, and then the person that I talked to that, that I got the new insurance with, it's like, it was a totally pleasant experience with that person. Like some of the other people were kind of annoying along the way, But when it was all linked up and aligned, it was a really amazing conversation with an insurance agent. Like, it was pleasant. When you're in alignment with God, like, there are obstacles and things that you have to go through that are uncomfortable, that create sometimes some suffering or some annoyances or irritation, disappointment even. But then it's like, things might get delayed, like scheduling to do work on my van, or you have an appointment and you think you're going to hire a certain company to do something, and then they're not available until September, and it's like they have this big long wait list. So it's like, and then other things get lined up and you're waiting on a part, but then when everything is like all laid out and you have all of the things that you need in that moment, and everything just works seamlessly, and it's like the person's available, you have a pleasant time, I learn new skills, it's like I see my van moving to the next, all the goals are being, that I've had for some time are being checked off, and I'm like, okay, I've completed that. And then there's a sense of accomplishment, there's a sense of confidence that, hey, I can do hard things. And but it's like I'm still giving the glory to God, because when I put my Bible study and I put my understanding of who God is first, then it's like he rearranges the mosaics of my life to put certain people, places, and things in order, so that when I am on the phone and I am making those phone calls, that eventually it is all lined up with that person with the car insurance, and it's like green light, go all the way, and it's beautiful. And that, when I'm doing the van build day, that everything lines up, all the equipment's there, and there's success in completing that project and moving forward. So my encouragement to you is to pick one thing to focus on. And when you focus on God, and that's your first and one major aim, I just feel that like everything else just falls into place. And that's my personal experience repeatedly, like what happens. And it doesn't mean that I still don't go through the motions of, taking action and writing down, all my lists under the categories that I'm improving myself and, targeting for my goals to be in these particular areas at this time. And I am reviewing this and going, okay, I am working on this particular portion right here, and I am, documenting this, and I know what I need to do, and I ordered that thing, and when that comes in, then I'm doing that next step. But what I'm getting at is all of those things line up when your main focus is actually on God Almighty. So it's something to try out, You have to personally experience it and see how it works out for you. But I can tell you from past experience, when you focus on one thing, you get everything. But if you're trying to focus on everything all at once, then nothing really has a priority. And a lot of times when you're focusing on multiple competing contingencies, there is the tendency that God gets edged out and he's like over here on the back burner, and you don't get around to it. But when you make God first, then all the other things seem to line up in like this like joyride, and you accomplish more because God knows your heart of what you're trying to do, and he rewards you for putting in the time and the worship and the understanding of who, he is. So that's my invitation to you. So thanks for listening. I hope you have a great evening. And yes, you can do hard things. And if you want any help in life coaching, health coaching, fitness coaching, I'm here to help and guide in any way that I can. And I look forward to talking to you soon. Thank you. Have a good night.